Hello all. I would like to welcome all of you to United Nations 75 Dialogue. We are celebrating the 75th year of United Nations, and as Abdullah Gül University, we are running a series of panels. In this panel, we will be covering SDG number 1, no poverty, SDG number 5, gender equality, and SDG number 10, reduced inequalities. We have great guests in this panel. We welcome an expert from UNDP, Mr. Mustafa Ali YURDUPAK, and we have all excellent and bright students of Abdullah Gül University, in addition to two of Abdullah Gül University professors, myself and Özgür Hoca. I leave the floor to Özgür Hoca in order to run the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Armağan Hocam. My name is Özgür Balkılıç. I am a member of the Human and Social Science faculty. So I want to ask all our dear panelists the first question. And our first question is, how will be the world in 2045 when the UN turns 100 years of age? How will the SDG targets be by then? The floor is yours, my dear students.
I can start first if you don't mind.
Okay.
It may be cliche, but the world is becoming more modern and more global day by day, and world economies and politics are mixing and becoming more interdependent. And besides the culture, also the cultures, interaction between cultures is so high, and world's cultural diversity is gradually disappearing. And also, states are not only powerful organisms, and there are a lot of multinational or non-national, how do you say, companies, corporations, which are stronger than maybe half of the countries in the world. And I believe that most of the CDGs stay same because CDGs are addressing to the future.
Thank you, Redwan. Okay, who wants to continue?
So, Hocam,
sorry.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I want to introduce myself in starting part. I'm Elanur KARABULUT. I'm mechanical engineering student at Abdullah Gül University. Firstly, I agree with Rıdvan, but I have a different idea about in 2045. I believe that in these days, in particular these days, are a great turning point for the world. But this is not a good turning point for us. As a young university student, I don't want to be so pessimistic, but we have to take a realistic approach that we can only deal with if we can define our problems. If you noticed, during this COVID-19 process we live in, our communication channels have improved a lot. While the globalizing world can listen to many people, now this is even more. Events are held on online platforms. Everybody shares their idea on social media platforms. I think that this dense communication network will develop and intensify further thanks to technology in 2045. At this point, people think that, okay, great, we can easily share our ideas and we can connect easily all around the world. But I don't agree with this point because it's not very heartwarming, because I think people have already stopped listening to each other. Perhaps in 2045, our thinking by closing our eyes will be enough to communicate. but we will not understand each other. I'm talking about empathy. Now, while emotion studies are being carried out on robots, maybe in 2045, we will have robots that have stronger emotions and empathy than us. But I think humanity will lose their emotions in a world where people cannot understand each other. I think it will be inequality and poverty will increase further in order for people to have an idea about their approach to inequality, poverty, and other unprivileged situation. They need to be able to emphasize and understand other, and most importantly, if we cannot understand to other, we cannot connect or establish solidarity. That's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Ela. Thank you very much. Rehab, do you want to add something? Okay.
Okay, so my name is Rehab, and I'm studying in molecular biology and genetics department here at AGU. It is hard to predict what will the world look like in 2045, especially after this pandemic. Like, we all learned not to predict many years ahead. But I can say that the world will definitely be more digitalized. This is for sure, almost. And I would like to say what I would like the world to look like in 2045. I would like to see a better world, definitely, and I would like to see a more powerful UN, a more powerful United Nations, a United Nations with stronger power and stronger control over all countries. And I would like to see the dissolution of the Security Council of the United Nations, because really the Security Council of the United Nations is a very drastic example of inequality in the world, when the right to decide the fate of many nations belongs only to five countries, just because they are more powerful than the others, not because they are the majority. And even one negative vote is enough to stop an action, a very needed action for keeping peaceful, for keeping some areas in peace. And this is a very drastic example of inequality, when we don't have an access to justice. I would like to see the dissolution of this Security Council, and I would like to see a more powerful and much stronger UN. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rehab. And my other friends, do you want to add something?
I can add something. First of all, I am Elif Buse, and I am from the Political Science and International Relations department on AGU. And obviously, I want to imagine a more optimistic world about giving year. You know, we are in 2020 and almost 2021, but we still have 25 years ahead of us. And in my opinion, that's a long period. And during this period, the steps taken to solve these problems that we are talking today, like inequalities, poverty, can be improved, of course. But on the other hand, in the pessimistic way, there is not enough time to completely eliminate and finish all of this problem, because we still saw that and see that there are a lot of people are suffering from inequalities and poverty. I just hope that we can take some steps, but not completely finish all of the issues. And that's all for me.
Thank you.
I would like to support Elif Buse's arguments, and I want to introduce myself first. My name is Alina YARMOSHCHUK. I'm from Political Science and International Relations Department. And although we're already almost in 2021, and it's only 25 years before we will reach 2045, but today's world is developing extremely fast. The process of globalization, the young generation which gets older, and I tend to be rather optimistic about the Sustainable Development Goals of UN, especially about gender inequality, because from my personal observations and my personal experience, I see how youth is ambitious and how they have really strong idea about the tolerance and the gender equality. So I rather tend to believe that by 2045, we will be able to achieve a really higher level of gender equality. That's all for me.
Thank you, Alina. Thank you very much.
Hassan?
Yes, I believe I will go last. Thank you for giving me the floor, and thank you for the moderators for all their efforts to bring this up together. I am Hassan Mohammed. I'm a fourth-year business student. Regarding the world in 2045, I believe that it's very hard to predict exactly how everything will be. However, I think from a technological aspect, there will be a lot of advancements in that aspect in terms of AI, in terms of AR, and in many departments. However, I am not sure how this will translate into people's social life, into people's mental health, and in general peace in the whole world. I want to be optimistic and say that it will affect in a positive way if more of these conservations are made, if more of these panels, discussions, and people that are willing to come together in order to make the world better in 2045. That's all for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hassan. I think now we can ask Mustafa Bey to express his opinions.
Thank you, Özgür Bey. First of all, I'd like to give a kind of a historic background about that, because me, you, and maybe to some extent, Armağan Hanım belongs to a different generation. So if you'd like to take a few steps back, and look at the SDGs. Before SDGs, we would see MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals. So the Millennium Development Goals was set in 2000. It was the development agenda for the world for 15 years. They were designed to tackle, to take the wretched out of that condition. Since from 2000 to 2015, some progress has been achieved. And in 2015, as we know, the MDGs were replaced with SDGs, the Millennium Development Goals replaced with Sustainable Development Goals, a much more robust set of targets, 17 goals, 169 sub-goals, and 232 indicators related to those goals. So 2045, I listened to our young colleagues, young friends with a keen interest. And for instance, Rıdvan and Alina highlighted the cultural diversity and the globalization issue. Elanur underscored that communication is not understanding each other. The communication channels may diversify, but that doesn't necessarily mean we will understand each other more. We have SALEH focused on, again, digitalization, but she focused on the inequalities in a world is larger than 5 approach. And Elif Buse, she highlighted that the remaining time, the remaining 25 years may not be enough to tackle these issues. So I'd like to take this question personally, and I'd like to answer in a personal way. In 2004, first of all, let me reiterate that the age of retirement for UN officials, for international civil servants is 65. And in 2045, I will be 67 years of age. So it will be after 2 years of my retirement, hopefully. So, and as I mentioned, the MDGs replaced by SDGs. Now we are talking about the SDGs. From 2015 to 2020, the period was named some sort of a awareness raising period to make people more aware about the SDGs. From 2020 to 2030, the decade is called a decade of action. So all the UN high officials, all the world's political leaders are saying that now it's not the time to talk, but it's time to walk, to take some concrete steps. What I'm asking to myself, as of 2045, in the second year of my retirement, am I going to ask myself what sort of tangible, concrete results we reached throughout my tenure? And also, will the MDGs, as I mentioned, replace with SDGs? And I'm asking myself whether we're gonna replace it with another set of goals and set another target in future to reach them. So I fully subscribe to what all the students have said so far. Yes, we are going to live in a more digitalized world. We are going to live in a world where inequalities, not only as in Rehab's Rehab al-SALEH as put in terms of politics, but in terms of humanitarian inequality, we will be in a world of inequality, but hopefully, again, a reduced inequality. And finally, we will hopefully we will be in a more gender equal world. But as a professional working for the UN, it is a personal yet corporate question that ask to myself whether to how much we will achieve in the decade of action to from 2020 to 2030 in terms of SDGs and make all these concerns to appease all these concerns to some extent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mustafa. I think for the first question, and you all, let's say, emphasize that we improved in tackling with some inequalities in the world or the poverty problems in the world, and we are still have time. We have still a way to go ahead. But I agree with Mustafa Bey that how the world will look like in 2045 will depend on us, will depend on our actions. It will not happen out of nowhere. It will depend on how we will get together or how we will take action in order to reach our goals. So, and I think now we can move to the second question. What are the main obstacles and challenges that will block this vision or this, let's say, bright future?
Maybe we can also remind our colleagues that maybe we remain in the time limits, keep our answers a little bit shorter for the sake of, because we have 4 more questions, for the sake of time management. Or alternatively, we can ask this question to 3 of our students, and the next 3rd question could be answered by another 3 questions. So it's up to you guys, but let's stay in the time limits, I would suggest.
Okay, thank you, Armağan.
I can talk if you don't mind. First, sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Rıdvan. I'm a student at the political science. The terrorism may be one of the main obstacles for this vision. While the world is in the process of the globalization, on the other side, problems are joining this process. They are becoming more global. Like climate change or terrorism, as I said. I want to touch the terrorism. Some countries still suffering from this problem, from Asia to Europa, from Europa to Africa. And I can give an example. 3 or 4 days ago in Niger, more than 20 students have been kidnapped by terrorists. So if these countries don't deal with these kind of problems, they can focus on their own interests. Like education or like this. And yes, thank you. These are my words.
Thank you.
Maybe I can add something, if it is okay. Maybe we are not thinking about the whole picture, but solution process is too long. I mean, we cannot deal with in 25 years or maybe 40 years. So I want to highlight that our big problem, our big challenges is new generation. If we are not taking an action immediately, there will be an isolated generation without humanitarian values. I think this is a crucial problem because the greatest trump card of humanity is the new generation coming from behind. Many children are now growing up without peer communication and playmates. This is not yet noticed, but an unhappy, isolated generation that does not listen or understand someone like them can turn everything upside down. If we adults cannot solve our global problems, it is today's children who will take our responsibility in the future. I think such a great power should not be lost. That's why I think we have to focus on new generation problems for solving. Thank you.
Thank you, Ela.
I can go next, Hocam.
Yeah, of course.
So I think there are 2 main challenges that face the UN and prevent the UN from achieving these 3 goals that we are discussing, and especially inequality. And the first challenge, I think, it is the economic system that we are adopting right now, which is kind of capitalism or neoliberalism, whatever you want to call it. And the reason is governments have already given too much power to those companies, and especially mega companies, and it is too hard to get that power back and put it in the right place. And the second thing, the second challenge is the authority that the UN has already given to those 5 countries, to the P5. And again, it is really hard to get that power back. And this will prevent us from achieving financial equality. When I talked about the economic system that we are adopting, because even taxation is so hard when you are facing those mega corporations. If we don't achieve fair taxation from everyone, there is no way that we can achieve equality amongst humans. So I think that this is the main challenge. We have to reform our economic system. We have to take back that power that we have given to those corporations. We have to empower governments again. And this is how we can take those taxes from those corporations and give it to people who need it. And it is really well recognized right now that if those 26 richest, the most rich people in the world give their taxes fairly, it is well recognized that we can end poverty. So that's it.
Thank you, Rehab.
I also want to add something very briefly. In my opinion, one of the main obstacles and challenges to, for example, eradication of poverty is actually the process of globalization, as it's beneficial for some countries, but for others, it's exactly the opposite. And it really makes the gap between the countries even bigger. So it can be really a problem.
Can I go next?
Of course, Hassan.
I believe that one of the main obstacles is communication between people, between nations, especially if they come from different cultures, different backgrounds, different beliefs. And I believe that the solution for that would be to reassess any information we have, any beliefs we hold, and to talk about them openly in terms of walking towards a better life for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Hassan. And I think we can move on with Mustafa Bey.
Thank you, Özgür Bey. I listened to the discussions and it's very interesting to note that Elanur highlighted the isolated and alienated generations, and Alina said that the globalization is working for some of the communities and against some of the communities. In line with these two arguments, I'd like to say that the biggest challenge is, one of the biggest challenges at least, is the average GDP per capita or average obsessed mindset in terms of inequality. So some of us are still describing poverty with statistics. Poverty and inequality is not all about statistics. Let me put it in a more concrete way. If the meager resources of a poor household is used only for boys' education, but not for girls, then you can say that there's even a gap within the same household, just without crowding out the parameter of poverty. So in terms of inequalities and in terms of poverty, we should think in two terms. One is the poverty itself, and the other is deprivation. As you know, in Turkish, there are two words for that. One is the poverty means yoksulluk, and deprivation means yoksunluk. So these two rhyme together very well, and apart from rhyming very well, they are closely connected to each other. So the biggest challenge to tackle inequalities is, in my opinion, seeing poverty as a statistical matter, as a GDP per capita matter. Apart from GDP per capita matter, it's something about deprivations. Despite high GDP per capita, there might be some pockets of poverty. There might be some pockets of disadvantaged people, and how we can reach to them is the biggest challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mustafa Bey. Thank you for this. And I think we can continue with our third questions. And our third question is, how can global cooperation, particularly the UN, better manage this challenge? What can the UN do differently, and how can the UN change and reform?
Maybe we can start with Elif Buse this time.
Yep.
Of course, I can say something about this. Finding solution to some problems by gathering people in common is very difficult task. We know that because people have different decision, and some cooperation like United Nations did this kind of things so well. And in my humble opinion, Ella mentioned before, focusing on new generation will be good because we are living a global world, and the new generation is our future. And focusing on these people will be will be good for finding problems and finding solution for this kind of problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Elif.
I can give a comment, just brief sentence. As my friend says, the architects of the future is youngs. So UN should continue to keep in touch with youngs, just like what are we doing now. And also, as you know, there is a course in our university. It's called AGU-United, the GLB, and these kind of projects, basic project, can be more spread in the other universities.
Thank you, Ridwan. Thank you very much.
Maybe I can add something because I will say, as Elif, Buse mentioned and Ridwan mentioned, more partnership with young people, as Ridwan said that what we are doing right now. The reason I think this way is that, as I said before, the definition of the problem should be made well so that the solution can be found. The UN has already done this with its sustainable development goals. This definition should reach more people. With the cooperation of our university, we are able to get to know sustainable development goals much more closely, with such as our GLB courses or our speaking class debating exercise. We even have a knowledge about it, and since we know about this definition, we can think of the solution. As you can see, we can offer different solution right now. If more young people are reached sustainable development goals definition, that means more solutions are offered. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Elif.
I would like to say that I would totally agree with Elanur and say that education, I believe that education is the key for sustainable change, key for collective change also. And I believe this should be one of the priorities in these times. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Hassan.
So, Hojam, for gender inequality, I do agree with the others that, like, we learned from neuroscience that this gender bias is really resulting from the stage where children are at about 3 or 3.5 years old. So maybe other corporations can work with the UN and do some programs, some educational programs about this. First, we have to start with the families, with the father, with the mothers, and then they will do the effects on their children. For the equality, and I really like to focus on financial equality. I think the UN has to add 2 extra targets, and I would suggest the first target to be ensuring fair taxation from everyone, and ensuring, by that taxation, ensuring a basic universal income for everyone. If we can do this, we can ensure at least that extreme poverty is done. The second target I would like the UN to add is universal health insurance, because health is very essential, right? And everyone should have access to health. This is also a very dramatic example of inequality in the world. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I think we can continue with Mustafa Bey again.
Özgür Bey, thank you. In terms of addressing how to address the inequalities, first of all, most of our friends, Rıdvan, Elanur, Hassan, they all highlighted, they all underscored the new generations. This is very important because in terms of inequalities, what makes inequalities rather difficult to tackle is the modes, the types of inequalities are replaced with new ones. So up until very recent times, primary schooling was one of the biggest inequalities among the world. Right now, it's not the case. Primary schooling has been achieved to a certain extent by most of the countries in the world. Similarly, infant mortality rates. This is one of the issues that have been adequately addressed by the globe, with some minor exceptions of some Southeast Asian countries and some sub-Saharan countries. But when you look at the new generation of inequalities, what you see is not the primary schooling, but university education. So access to university education is still something that the developed countries have easier access, whereas the developing and the least developed countries have very limited access. Similarly, digitalization, similarly the digital gap, or what we call as the bandwidth inequality. When you look at the countries, again, there's an increasing gap between developing countries and the developed countries. So the biggest challenge in inequalities is not the classical inequalities, but the inequalities that emerge in the last decade, or at least in the last 4 or 5 years. And also what Rehab has said about basic universal income, about fair taxation. I'd like to assure all you guys that basic universal income is one of the critical aspects that the UN has been discussing about in a very efficient manner. And I'd like to say that I fully subscribe to what Rehab has said. Basic universal income is one of the crucial aspects to eradicate poverty. As I mentioned, no poverty was among the Millennium Development Goals, and it is the number 1 in Sustainable Development Goals, which highlights that poverty is an insistent arch enemy in terms of development, and we have to tackle this in a very efficient manner. Thank you and all.
Thank you, Mustafa Bey. Thank you very much. And our fourth question is, how can the UN better work with other actors?
Would I go first? If I would go first, I would say very briefly that I believe in order to make better connections and corporations, I believe that the UN should focus on what the other side is interested in, studying the other side very well, their culture, their language, their interests, and try to find mutual advantages and benefits from this. Thank you.
I can share one idea. I just thought that maybe reaching out for organizations and, let's say, corporations in other countries different than the usual ones like the US may be a good idea, as UN honestly is a great organization with good, really good meaning under these sustainable development goals. But in some countries, in some middle countries where it's not, the situation is not really bad, but in the same time, it's not really good and they require the help from UN. They actually don't really pay attention to such countries, and that's a problem because citizens of these countries start to get a little bit desperate and maybe they get a little disappointed in the UN. So if UN would try at least to reach some organizations in these countries, it probably would improve not only the good vision of the UN as a whole, but also it would just be better. I think it would really benefit both sides. That's all for me.
Thank you, Alina.
I would like to say that the UN should stop working with politicians, and instead they should start working with people, especially people who are the main topic of any issue that is being discussed. We don't want politicians. We don't need politicians. We are in a world in which we need either scientists or humanitarians. We don't need politicians anymore.
Thank you, Rehab. Now I think we can turn to the Mustafa Bey.
Özgür Bey, thank you so much. I recorded all the comments. Better connection, reach out to corporations, reach out to developed countries. No politicians needed. So I all recorded all these, but this question is the exceptional question for me, because I don't want to give highlights about what UN should do, since I'm speaking within the organization. But all I can say is SDG number 1, the no poverty, it's the arch enemy. And SDG number 5, the gender inequality, it is the sine qua non for human development. For all these and the remaining 16 SDGs, there is one last remaining SDG called cooperation for partnerships for goals. This is the essence to reach SDGs. SDGs are like New Year resolutions. This year, I'm gonna quit smoking. This year, I'm gonna work out regularly and things like that. So the SDGs, these 17 SDGs are the New Year or the new decade resolutions of the globe as a whole. And to tackle, to reach all these goals, neither the governments per se, neither the corporations per se, neither the international organizations, whether it's UN or something else per se, is enough. So there should be partnership to tackle all these goals in an efficient manner. This is the essence of SDGs, I presume. It is the last SDG, but not the least important SDG. On the contrary, the most important SDG. Partnership for goals. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mustafa Bey. And our last question is, what would you advise the UN to do to address these challenges?
I can talk.
Yep.
I believe in the role of the leaders in this case. The leaders who are stronger, who are brave, who have ethic understanding, should be chosen for these targets from top to the floor.
Thank you.
Hocam, I think the UN should seek more power and should seek more control over all countries, over all companies, all countries or governments, and I think they should dissolve the Security Council. I think they should put the two targets that I have talked about before. Yeah, briefly, that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Rehab.
I can continue.
Yep, Elif.
The easiest way to solve global problems like poverty and inequalities is started with younger generation. We already mentioned that. To solve a problem, you have to go down to its core. And the easiest way to do this to contact university students who will be the future professionals. Our friends mentioned that before, but I want to talk about my experience in Abdullah University. And I just took a GLB class called Migration and Population from Özgür Hoca and Armağan Hoca too. And obviously, as our course project, we were asked to solve one of the problem of immigrants. And as a project, we designed a website where Syrian immigrant women can report the problems they can experience in their work life. And our goal was to take steps to address inequalities that women experiences in their work lives. And I really got a lot of information when I was doing research for this project assignment. Of course, this is an assignment design was just for a project assignment design for our university, but why turn this kind of projects into a real project with United Nations support? So I like to be more engaged with this problem of the world and to look for a solution to them to work to make our future better. In my humble opinion, there are still a lot of young people who think like us, and they want to find solution to solve this problem. And as long as they get support, I think many of good projects will be signed. And thank you.
Thank you.
I can also.
Sorry, go on, please.
Thank you. I would like just to make maybe a brief suggestion. Maybe UN can create more accessible ways for youth to actually participate in UN campaigns, because even from my experience, I know a lot of people my age or a bit older who wanted to volunteer, for example, somehow, but they just don't know the real possible way to make it, to contribute to it. So if there was more accessible way to help, I guess we could use youth to improve the situation.
Thank you.
I can continue. I think UN should be more intertwined with solidarity communities, and more people should be brought into these communities. The reason is that in communities that came together by sharing the same problem, and that's why people don't feel alone. I'm trying to get a profession that has a very low rate of women for my own right now. So I thought that maybe I will face with gender inequality in industry, but the solidarity communities I'm currently involved in one of them encourage me and in this point, and I can feel more motivated and know my rights in my workplace. So likewise, I can tell my other friends who are concerned about gender inequality in the workplace. So I just want to support my answer, giving example from myself. If this has worked for me, I think solidarity communities for many different problems will work for others. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to end by giving, how could I say, I would say that I could not agree more with my friends, since I believe that it is all about using minds that are not used yet. Since we're tackling such big problems, I believe that we can use all the bright minds all the energy, all the youth, the motivation, the knowledge we have. So I think it's all about bringing people together, involving the youth, involving everyone that has any idea, any motivation to solve these problems.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Hassan. And Mustafa Bey.
Thank you. Thank you, Özgür Bey. This is a question that I don't want to give a particular answer, but rather I took great pleasure to listen to our young colleagues. All I'd say is just beware and know that there is a UN volunteer system. It's called UNV. And it's waiting for you. It's waiting for people who are enthusiastic about SDGs. The ideas that has been put forward under this discussion, giving emphasis to young people, making making UN more intertwined with the communities, or as in Elanur's case, more gender equality and more access to engineering and scientific fields. These are all areas of discovery. These are all areas of utilization under United Nations system. It can be under UNDP. It can be under any other UN agency. I'm not going to give you because I cannot give you a magic wand or a magic solution to solve everything. But what I firmly believe, that I genuinely, sincerely believe is the solution lies right here among young people. We want them to be engaged more about SDGs, because those SDGs, those goals are not geared towards people for us, but for them, for young people. That's why I firmly encourage them to take active role in UN agencies, through UNV, through all other modes of employment, to make their voices heard and to make their contributions become concrete in projects, in interventions, in the international fora. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mustafa Bey. Thank you very much. And that was, I think, the end of the panel. And I think it was a very good and beneficial panel. I thank you, all of you, to really participate and make your opinions be clear about these questions. Armağan Hocam, do you want to close the session?
Yeah, thanks everybody. I took a great pleasure in listening to your commentary, our young students, and as well as Mustafa Bey as an expert in this area. And we all hope the future holds optimism for us, and with the energy of you guys, young people, young students, as well as those who are excluded from these kind of platforms, most of these platforms, like working class people, suppressed people of the world, women, people of color, indigenous people, they all, I hope, will get empowered by their own actions and by the actions of United Nations and by the actions of collaborating agencies in this process. And I hope to see in 2045 a more egalitarian world, and a world that believes in its own potentials, people who are empowered and who can stand against militarism, excessive weaponization of societies and countries, who can stand against people taking away from 1% taking away from 99%, and strong, claiming power, money, and all the resources of the world. I hope we believe we achieve a more generational equality. We achieve equality between countries. We achieve equality between genders and races. And overall, we keep in mind that all types of inequalities are interconnected. Gender inequality cannot be separated from class inequality, and that cannot be separated from racial equality. We are all this in together, and if we're going to give importance to one, we have to also give importance to the other one. And in this way, with the power of the people, we hope that, and with the help of the United Nations, we can achieve a better society. And this is my last words, and I hope you enjoyed this panel as well. And I hope we contributed positively to United Nations in its endeavor to achieve sustainable development goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good evening. Take care.
Thank you.